see a few people in chat. We do this each and every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. We also do our Two Fat Guys and a Tattoo live stream every Sunday at 6. So if you'd like to see Justin and I work together, catch us on Sunday nights, our live stream. Hopefully everybody's having a great, happy week. I'm excited to be here. I have a really cool episode lined up for us tonight. We're going to break away from the firsts. And we're going to touch on something that, I kind of found a little interest in while I was out in Hawaii. I will be the first one to say that, hey, look, I don't know everybody that's out there that ever tattooed or whatever, right? There's even some big name people out there that I might not know about. So I'm man enough to admit that this is one of those guys. After I learned about this gentleman, I was kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't know that much about him. But we're going to share this story together. I just want you to give me a quick thumbs up. Let me know it sounds okay, it looks okay, and we'll get rolling with this bad boy because it's going to be a good episode tonight. I will give you a quick backstory on how I came about with this episode for tonight. As you can see, I'm rocking my Hawaiian shirt for this episode. I figured it was, kind of important to represent since we're going to be talking about a Hawaiian legend tonight. Now, when I was in Hawaii, I, ran into a multitude of different people that we all talked about tattoos. Everybody was saying this person, that person. A couple of them I met, a couple I didn't. But the one name that kept popping up was Lance McLean. Now, again, self-admittedly, thank you, Sarah, for the $5 super chat. Much appreciated, as always. Self-admittedly, I didn't know a lot about him. I don't even, to be fair, remember if I recognized the guy's name. Once I read the backstory, I gotta be honest, I was kind of bummed out that I didn't get a tattoo from the gentleman. Now, I know that he has closed his shop. I think he still might be tattooing, like out of a little private studio or whatever. But he has a really amazing backstory, and we're going to get into that tonight. I do see some thumbs up, so that's awesome. At least I know it sounds good, and we can get rolling with this bad boy. Now, Lance McLean is a gentleman that owned Dragon Tattoo on the part of the island of Oahu called Waihawea. I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but the gentleman was the longest standing tattoo artist in Hawaii before he sold his shop, or he shut his shop down. Now, the backstory of him and the Sailor Jerry thing, which is why I picked the title for tonight, is even more mind-blowing. So let's get into it. I'm actually going to go ahead and give you some flash to look at because I feel like it's important to get a little backstory. I do have other pictures. They're going to be more prevalent for the story. I know I'm a little all over the place. I apologize. I figured out last week I was a little rusty from taking time off. It's good to see everybody in here, though. Lance McLean was born in 1952 and is a prominent tattoo artist in Hawaii, known for his old school or classic American style of tattooing. He operated Dragon Tattoo in it's WHIAWA. I heard so many people pronounce it, and I still can't pronounce it right. I lived in freaking Arizona, and it took me almost the 9 months I lived there to pronunciate the streets right. So, Go me. um, he's considered one of the few remaining artists from the Sailor Jerry lineage still actively working at this time. And again, he did sell a shop. I think he still is tattooing. I just don't think he's tattooing in a shop on a regular basis. He grew up in Burbank, California, where his mother worked for Universal Studios, and his friends' parents were involved in Hollywood as animators, set builders, electricians, and lighting technicians. McLean attributes his early exposure to movie images to influencing his artwork. And if you look at some of the flash here, let me get rid of this banner. Sorry about that. Really cool work. This was actually posted on Frank Rosenkild on his Instagram. I believe at the time these were being sold. Some more of his original flash. You could see his influences with the fantasy, a little dabble of the, Japanese in there, the typical Americana with the eagles. So we'll get into more flash here in a minute. All right. In 1972, after high school, McLean joined the Navy and was stationed in San Diego, where he encountered tattoo artists Don Ed Hardy, Mike Malone, and Zeke Owens. This experience led him to discover his calling in tattooing. Hardy and Owen introduced McLean to Sailor Jerry's flash designs, sparking McLean's desire to meet Sailor Jerry. In 1973, during a temporary stop in Honolulu with his ship, McLean visited Chinatown and spent 3 days discussing tattooing with Sailor Jerry. Now, after we go through some of this, I'm actually going to read you part of an interview that he did with Inked Magazine, where he kind of gets into a little bit more detail about the interactions that happened between him and Sailor Jerry. From what I understand, it was, Sailor Jerry was kind of quiet until they touched on a subject that he kind of felt like he wanted to chime in on, and then he kind of warmed up to McLean. Less than a year after McLean's meeting with Sailor Jerry, Jerry passes away, and his widow sells the shop to Mike Malone. Mike Malone then turns it into China Sea. Malone subsequently hired McLean as an apprentice in 1976, teaching him the fundamentals and sharing Sailor Jerry's trade secrets. McLean worked for Malone from 1976 until 1980, when Malone sold him his Waikiki shop, Floating World. McLean worked at Floating World for about 8 years before relocating to Wahawa. God damn it. I should have Googled pronounce this name. And I'm sorry for anybody that's from the island that I'm offending, but I'm trying. And establishing Dragon Tattoo. He was running Dragon Tattoo for 27 years, and by 2013, he had been tattooing for a total of 28 years. So he definitely hung in there for a long time in Hawaii. Mike Irons, these are they dated? I do not see a date on there, sir. I know that this was an older post, so that the date might not mean anything. Again, I horked it from Frank Rosenkild, just because he had so much of the flash on his page that I was like, oh man, that's perfect, dude. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Zeke told me that Sailor Jerry didn't want Malone to buy the shop. So, Wahiwa, thank you, dude. Moderator Nikki comes through in a clutch again, like always. Wahiwa. So, it was told to me that Sailor Jerry wanted Malone, Ed Hardy, or Zeke to take the shop. Both Zeke and Ed Hardy turned it down. Then it went to Malone. So there might be some truth to that he didn't want Malone to buy the shop, but top hand out. Originally that's the story that I was told. I actually got that story straight from Harry as well. So, I don't know. Obviously, just like all the other stuff that goes on in this industry, or this craft, a lot of it's word of mouth, and a lot of it's hearsay. So for tattooed for 27 years out of that shop. McLean's work is characterized by strong dark lines, bold, brilliant colors, and solid shapes, distinguishing it as deceptively simple. He intentionally avoids fussy shading, nuances, and tones in his tattoos. McLean emphasizes that a tattoo should be immediately perceivable, stating that if someone cannot understand what they are looking at within 7 seconds, the tattoo is not successful. So that kind of goes with the whole thing with Coleman, where he said that, you should be able to tell what it is from across the street. His pinup girl designs are noted for having softer and more vulnerable faces compared to Sailor Jerry's. All the flash on the walls of his shop was hand-painted by McLean, reflecting a tradition from when he was learning to tattoo. He believes in offering customers with authentic, old-school tattooing experience he grew up with, providing hand-painted flash on the walls and maintaining a walk-in street shop type of environment. He emphasizes the importance of having a good selection of designs on the wall, as customers historically choose flash directly from there. Now, in the article that we're going to talk about, he actually touches on the, developments of how the business, the craft has evolved, where people aren't so much reliant on flash anymore. There's a lot of, hey, I want this. You know what I mean? He gets into that. He didn't, surprisingly, sound too against it. He kind of, based off of the interpretation I got off the interview, he was like, hey, man, change is good. It's all about freedom of change. So, while he might have wanted to hold on to his old school traditions, to me, it sounded like he was okay with, some things happen to change. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, Sailor Jerry significantly influenced McLean's work. After Mike Malone took over Sailor Jerry's shop, renaming it China Sea, Jerry's original flash designs and stencils remained, and McLean learned to tattoo by working directly from these materials. He noted that Jerry's designs were large, bold, and in the old school style, making them forgiving for a new tattoo artist. His initial encounter with Sailor Jerry in 1973 was facilitated by his connection with Ed Hardy and Mike Malone, who encouraged him to visit Jerry when a Navy ship was docked in Honolulu. McLean spent several days absorbing the ambiance of Jerry's shop and whatever knowledge Jerry was willing to share. He learned about the history of tattooing in Honolulu's Chinatown area from Jerry, noting that tattooing had been present on Hotel Street since the early 1920s. McLean was unknowingly destined to take Jerry's seat, working in the same position Jerry once occupied. Now, that's going to make a lot more sense when I read the interview that he did. He explains that, he was right-handed, Malone was left-handed. So the way that the shop was set up at the time, um, it just made more sense. And that actually wound up putting him in the same spot that Sailor Jerry was in, and that's where he did his work from. He talked about, how it was to fill the shoes, so to speak, and be in that position. He was definitely honored. And I tell you what, I'll get into this in a bit, but he definitely got some praises from some pretty big name people as being, one of the best. Um, you know, this McLean definitely earned his spot, and you know, I think that's pretty awesome. Um, so here's a couple more shots of the Flash. Very cool stuff. I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger just so you guys can see it. I like the vampire, actually. That looks pretty cool. Some really cool stuff, though. I would have liked to have seen the shop with, all the hand-painted stuff to see the difference. Obviously, all this is just the, black on white. That's a really amazing peacock, though. I think that was probably one of my favorites out of the tattoos that I got to see on this. Some really nice skull and daggers. Some nice ladies with some naughty bits. Let me get off of that so I don't get in trouble. But I thought this was kind of cool to show you guys. Now, I know the guy second from the left, obviously, is Ed Hardy. Lance is the dude on the far right. I do not know who the other ones are in this picture, so if anybody knows that's in the audience hanging, like Mike Irons, maybe you would know. I'm curious to see who these other guys are. I wish this is one of those. I wish I would have ran this past Justin to see if he knew, but I did not recognize the other people that are in this picture. Here's a really cool old picture of Lance working. This was at his shop. I think this was sometime in the late, the early 80s, mid 80s. And then this is, I guess, a more recent picture of him. So let me pull this up because I think you guys are going to dig this. So we just talked about just 1 year before Sailor Jerry passed, Lance McLean paid a visit to the old man when his Navy ship landed in Hawaii. Clues to the fact that he'd soon take Jerry's seat. McLean has kept under the radar since his start at China Sea in 1976. He did this interview and they traveled back to the early stages of the craft when Sailor Jerry was raising hell and Lance McLean was fresh in the business. He's one of the most humble human beings I've had the pleasure of getting to know. Blah, blah, blah. His story set me in a trance. Apparently this guy is, just saying about how, like, he was such a cool, humble guy and had so much knowledge that it was almost like sitting with Sailor Jerry having a beer. He was getting tattooed by Ed Hardy and setting into the Hawaiian sun. At this point, he was tattooing for 27 years. He said he was always a sucker for traditional ink, hearts and roses and that stuff. So he says, I met Ed Hardy when I was in San Diego. He had a lot of cool Japanese style designs in his windows and it stood out. It was rare in those days to come across somebody that was doing Asian style tattooing, because in the early 70s, a lot of the shops still did the eagle or panther military type tattoos. Hearts and roses, traditional stuff. Ed was doing really neat Asian looking dragons and tigers. Ed's a pretty easy guy to talk to, and right away he got all excited about tattooing and Japanese style tattoos. I was thinking, wow, this guy was really has great enthusiasm, the type that wears off on you. It was infectious. I got a dragon from him that went on, from the arm onto the chest, and a koi fish on the other arm. So that actually would have been those picture. They asked him when he was first tattooed. He said just after my 18th birthday by Tennessee Dave. He said he would just, remembered being with his mom and seeing like the wolf with the, the sailor hat, the tongue hanging out. I think we've all seen that. Right away I knew I wanted one. Obviously his parents were not cool with it, because he said at that time society wasn't really as accepting of tattoos. He said he was in San Diego, and he was being tattooed by Ed. Mike was working in Zeke Owen's shop just up the road, and in those days the shops were really close to in proximity. Mike Malone knew Ed real well, so I walked in and introduced myself and told him I had gotten some recent work from Ed. Mike was real interested in seeing what I had gotten. Then he said he'd let him hang around at the shop for a little bit. He got an offer. He said that he got an offer from Jerry's widow, Lois. When Jerry passed away, Lois was under strict orders from the old man to sell the shop only to 3 people that Jerry approved of: Ed Hardy, Zeke Owen, and Mike Malone. Ed and Zeke both turned down the offer, but Mike took the opportunity. He came over to Hawaii while I was still in the Navy, but I kept in contact and eventually said yes. He said, Lance, would you be interested in learning the business? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So there you go. I mean, not only do you get tattooed from Ed Hardy, Zeke Owens, Mike Malone, but then, you kind of forge a friendship with those guys before you even had your apprenticeship. Then you take on your apprenticeship and you get to work out of China Sea, which is Sailor Jerry's shop. And then come to find out, you're going to wind up sitting in Sailor Jerry's seat. Like, that has to be mind-blowing for anybody. I mean, I don't know, like, on the level today, what that would... I guess if you were, like, a young kid that was into, like, horror-type art, and you went and got a tattoo from Paul Booth, and then Paul Booth was like, hey, why don't I teach you the business? You know what I mean? It would have been mind-blowing. Yeah, so Mike Irons just said Doc Webb was in Dago as well. Yeah, so, obviously San Diego at that point had a slew of amazing talent, just as much as anywhere else. That whole West Coast thing, to me, and I think I even said this to you, Mike, while I was at Reno. I know the names from the West Coast guys, but there were a lot of guys that I really didn't know about. And the more and more I dug into this, the more and more I got interested into it. So it is truly amazing to me, the amount of talent that was on the West Coast, because I don't know if it's coming from the Northeast or whatever. Like, I just always associated East Coast with tattooing. And then as you started to dig further and further into it, and you realize that really, after the move west, I guess, the rock stars really came from the West Coast. When you start to talk about Tuttle and Ed Hardy, Bob Roberts, Zeke Owens, Zeke obviously was hitting multiple coasts, but Burt Grimm, I think I said Burt Grimm, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. Um, he said at the time he was just messing around. He was really dragging his anchor. I wasn't working in an efficient manner or conducting myself efficiently. I hadn't realized that the value of I hadn't realized the value of that yet. Actually, as far as Mike being a fairly big man, he was fast. He could do a very good job of tattooing without wasting a lot of time. He knew the value of efficiency. And that's one of the things that no matter who I talk to, they always say about Zeke Owens. You know, Ronnie Delacqua was like, Zeke kind of moved. It was like a symphony. There was no wasted movements. Schwagert said the same thing. Tim Goodrich, who, I talked to at Aloha Tattoo, he worked for Zeke for a while. He said the same thing. He said, Zeke just was like, like a maestro, man. Like he was just smooth, fluid. All his moves mattered. I think that if you look at the people that came out of that school of training, majority of them are phenomenal artists. Just my own opinion. How did it feel being in Jerry's shop after he passed? He said it was scary. I was in the hot seat. Mike was left-handed tattoo artist, so if you were sitting in the shop looking out towards the door, he had his workstation on the left-hand side. He said, now I'm right-handed, so I was sitting in the same workstation, Jerry's old position. And that was closer to the door. People would come in and ask, where's Jerry? I'd say, Jerry passed away. The wife sold the business to Mike Malone, and my name's Lance. I work for Mike. Before Mike took over, it was called Sailor Jerry's Tattoo Shop, and he changed the name to China Sea, but Jerry's designs, all of his original flash stencils and everything were in the shop still. I learned to tattoo working off of Jerry's flash, working directly off the old plastic acetate stencils. Everything I did in those days was from Sailor Jerry's designs. In that shop, 7 days a week, it was Sailor Jerry. So that alone right there is incredible. Now, if you're fortunate enough to go to that shop now, there is Sailor Jerry flash hanging. There's Mike Malone flash hanging. Harry's got his own stuff that, he painted. Charlie that works there. There's a couple of the other artists that work there. They have their stuff hanging. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and you'll know about this more once we get into the interview that I did with Harry. But when Mike Malone left, there was none of that stuff. He said that the only two original pieces of flash that he has from that shop, or that were there at that shop, were two pieces of flash from Mike Malone. All the stuff that's in that shop now that has anything to do with Sailor Jerry, he had to personally go out and get. Him and his partner, Chris. He said that, when they bought the shop, it had been like a little bodega type of store. It had also been run by like this piercer guy that painted the walls black, and I don't want to give too much away, but it made me appreciate the fact that he has all that stuff in that shop now, and he's collected it for years to get that stuff back in that shop in its rightful home. I know that Justin's told me this story. Mike Schwagert's told me this story. But Malone used to be at conventions and would be like, oh, do you want some Sailor Jerry acetates? And he would literally reach in a box and just pull out handfuls and be like, here, you take a couple. Because, Mike got everything when he bought the shop. So there's stuff out there that's Sailor Jerry stuff, obviously. But everything that's back in that shop had to be procured at a later time, which is sad. It's I was always under the impression that, like, I knew Mike bought the stuff off of Jerry. I was under the impression that when Mike sold, it went down the line, and that's not the case at all. Now, it sounded to me like Lance got a bunch of stuff. Matter of fact, that's kind of how this wild goose chase started for me. Was both Harry said, "Hey man, you should really try to track down Lance." Tim Goodrich said the same thing. You should really try to track down Lance, because apparently Lance still has quite the collection of Sailor Jerry stuff, plus all the stuff that he did. And if you look online, I mean, Lance's stuff is highly collectible. Obviously, Sailor Jerry's stuff is highly collectible as well. So, it would have been awesome. It's, you ever go on a trip and you have a regret? And that's one of those things for me. I wished maybe I would have went sooner, before he closed up the shop. Like, maybe I wished I would have went like a couple years ago, got a tattoo from him. I mean, I don't know if I would have, but, and the only reason I'm saying that is because if you plan on jumping in the ocean, you probably shouldn't have an open wound. We've talked about this, folks. You don't want to do that. Unless you could do second skin, I guess, but I don't think you're supposed to soak that either. And second skin doesn't really work on me because I'm fat and it slides around too much. What memories do you have of visiting Sailor Jerry while you were in the service? I was in the Navy, and Ed Hardy and Mike Malone always said, when your ship comes through Honolulu, you got to go stop at the shop and see Sailor Jerry. So, in fact, my ship did stop in Honolulu, and the first thing I did was go down to Sailor Jerry's shop and see the old man. It was easy for me to approach Jerry because they knew each other. It was like I had a membership card because Ed had tattooed me. Jerry was corresponding with Ed quite a bit, exchanging photographs of their tattoos. Ed had made a couple of visits to see Jerry, so they knew one another well. He said, gosh, it was about a year or so before he died when I came in. Jerry was in pretty bad condition because he was a chain smoker. A lot of people in that generation smoked. I think it took a toll on him. Growing up during the Depression and living through World War II aged a person. Plus, Jerry being in the service, he was a merchant marine during World War II, but he was in the Navy in the 1920s. When the Second World War broke out, he tried to get back in the Navy, but he had a heart murmur, so they wouldn't take him. He said the Merchant Marines was a little more lax, so he went right into the Merchant Marines and sailed in World War II. I believe he had a couple ships blown out from underneath him. Those experiences put a lot of age on you. He said, this person said, did he ever tattoo you? He said, no. 4 or 5 days that my ship was in port, I did nothing but go down there, and I felt like if he felt like talking, he'd talk. He was busy with somebody or doing something else. I just sat there quietly until he did feel like talking. I glued my butt to the chair and absorbed as much of the ambiance of that shop and whatever Jerry wanted to pass along to me. I was a human sponge. They said, is there anything special that he taught you? He said, the history of the area. He was in the Chinatown area of Honolulu. Tattooing has been going on Hotel Street since the early 1920s. During the Second World War, when a lot of military passed through, you'd easily had 10 to 12 shops in Chinatown. Jerry came to Honolulu in the 1930s when it was smaller and everyone knew everybody. But the IRS audited him in the 50s. He got so angry, he closed up businesses and sailed on excursion boats for tourists that wanted to see the Pearl Harbor Memorial. And in 1960, he opened up the shop at 1033 Smith Street where he worked. So that's what I was trying to say the other day when Justin and I were talking on our Sunday night live stream. I did not know that. I did not know that Sailor Jerry took a break for approximately 10 years. He wasn't tattooing. He was strictly doing his boat tour thing. And you know, I do have pictures of the original pamphlet um, that, you know, I don't think you could do that now, that tour. Because now for you to go to the USS Arizona, um, you know, it's all government regulated. It's part of the National Park Service, and you have to get on their boat and take the boat over. But, you know, I just found it very interesting that Sailor Jerry did not tattoo during that time frame. But I think that article, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you guys. If you want to check it out, it's on Inked Magazine. Just look up Lance McLean. I felt like that article, though, kind of gave you like a unique perspective of, you know, his interest, his drive to be a tattoo artist, to become one of the, considered to be one of the best tattoo artists of their time. You know, he obviously had a love, a deep passion for it. And then, you know, spending his time and absorbing and soaking in all the information from Sailor Jerry, Ed Hardy, Mike Malone. I mean, you know, to have an apprenticeship under Malone itself is like, man, that had to have been worth $1,000,000. I'm actually pulling up the Dragon Tattoo. So the webpage is still up for the shop, but I wanted to read you guys something that I thought was really interesting. Candy Everett on Lance McLean. Aesthetically, there is absolutely no one in the business who stands apart like Lance McLean. His style is more than distinctive. It is original, and he's never strayed from his original path. I cannot look through a blog or a tattoo magazine and identify by style much original work. With McLean, I can. It's always a pleasure to look through his drawings and finished flash to see his take on tattoos and art. He is indeed an original. So that's pretty big from Candy Everett, who's considered to be, you know, a legend. Another blurb here from Ed Hardy. Lance and I have been close friends and associates since 1972 when he came into my San Diego shop as a young sailor. Before long, he was also hanging out with Zeke Owens and Mike Malone and began tattooing on board ship during his tour of duty in the Pacific. In Honolulu, he got to know Sailor Jerry. After the Navy, Lance moved to Honolulu to apprentice with Mike Malone, who had bought Jerry's historic shop after Jerry's death. After 4 years, Lance bought Malone's Floating World shop in Waikiki, the first ever tattoo shop in that district. In 1987, he moved to Wahiwa. Man, what was it? I got it wrong again. Wahiwa. There you go. He moved to Wahiwa and established Dragon Tattoo, the first shop in that military-based town. Lance upholds the classic tattoo tradition with his fluid and distinct style, great sense of humor, and storytelling skills. He's never pursued or gotten much publicity, but deserves to be better known, especially by those who appreciate the 20th century soul roots of modern tattooing. Check him out. Those are some pretty big words, man. To get that kind of recognition from Candy Everett and Ed Hardy, that ought to tell you something. And I think that this is one of those scenarios where it kind of bums me out, man, that he wasn't as big as some of the names that we all know, especially if his work's that good. And if he was that diehard to the American traditional and diehard to sticking to his own original path, you know, I think that there's probably a lot of people in small towns throughout the United States or the world that are local legendary people that others just don't know about. How many other Lance McLeans are out there? I mean, take a minute to think about it and think about like your town right now. Do you have somebody in your town that's, considered to be one of the greatest and just not well known? I mean, the way I look at it is the people that we know about are big because, yes, they did fantastic tattoo work, but they knew how to promote themselves. They put in the effort to promote them. And, that's not easy for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that just don't, they're not real good at tooting their own horn. For whatever reason, we have people that, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Like I don't. There's certain people that I could think of off the top of my head that are very well known people, very well known artists that I wouldn't say that they're like ego driven assholes. There's a bunch that I would say are, just from stuff I've read, seen, or my own personal interactions with them. So, but yeah, let's get into some of these questions and stuff. I don't know if you guys have any questions or got some stuff you want to talk about, but I'm in. So what do you all think of my Hawaiian shirt, by the way? Come on. I want to hear it. I was expecting somebody to bust my balls about it. Fat Cracker's not in here. I figured he would have been one of the first ones to bust my balls about it. So we got Lowe's hanging out. We got Nathan Kisner hanging out. We got Chris Hawkins. Good to see you, Chris. Moderator Nikki. OG Sarah hanging. Who else? Oh, Fat Cracker is in here. Good job. Mike Irons, what's up, brother? We got Irish hanging in. What's going on, my Irish? Moderator Nikki said I need the mouse on the mushroom. Luz is hanging out with us. Medusa's noggin. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Thank you again for the introduction with Harry. We got Justin's Met in here. What's up, Justin? Great live today. Oh, so Justin, you're doing live streams. I will have to check that out, man. An interview with Larry Hanks might be good. Okay, I'll look into that. I think I'm pretty much caught up. I appreciate that, moderator Nikki. I always wanted to buy a Hawaiian shirt, but being a fat ass, it's always tough to find one in your size. But in Hawaii, had no problems finding one. Plenty of big people in Hawaii. I'm trying to think if I had any other pictures. I think, did we go through all the? Yeah, we did. Just so to get it off my plate, if anybody is on the East Coast and you're looking for something to do this weekend, Norfolk Tattoo Convention is happening this weekend. So I don't think too many of us right now that are watching or are on here are from the East Coast. But if anybody watches this later on, there is the Norfolk Tattoo Convention happening. And it is one of my favorite tattoo conventions I've ever been to. It is old school style. Kind of reminds me of back in the day when I used to go to tattoo conventions as a young whippersnapper, as a customer, just walking around and, checking out all the cool stuff. That's kind of how the Norfolk Tattoo Convention reminds me of. I did talk to the gentleman that runs the Heritage Arts Tattoo Convention. Told him I was really bummed out that I missed it this year, but I have it in the books for next year. So I will be hopefully attending that. Hopefully, as the year goes, I'll get more info on some other stuff that maybe I could do a little traveling this year. Sarah said, I love the shirt. Awesome. Thank you. Sneak peek of the next big interview. All right, if you guys want to hang for a second, let me pull some pictures. I will pull some up, and I'll give you a quick sneak peek. I won't share all the pictures, but I'll show you some pictures. Because, I don't want to give away all the goods right off the bat. Let me see here. Yeah, you know what? Let me show you a couple of these. These are pretty awesome. Download. And there's one more I'll download and show you guys. You guys are throwing me for a loop here, so I'm a little unprepared, but I'm going to do my best. No, it's all good, man. Let's do this. Why don't I get rid of this? Put this screenshot back up just so you have something to look at while I bust this out real quick. And media files, upload. 1, 2. So, boom. Since we're already talking about it, there you go. I just mentioned the address. Here, let's do this. Get rid of this. There you go. Sneak peek of my next episode. I have gotten the privilege of interviewing Harry Sita, the current owner of Old Ironside, which is Sailor Jerry's old shop. That is going to be hopefully coming out this weekend. If not, it'll be the beginning of next week. This is what the front of it looks like. That is the original door. Original window. The door is a trip. It's like a, what do they call those doors where it's split in half? You got to open up the top to open up the bottom. Took me a hot minute to figure that out. Walked right into the bottom of the door. But here's a really cool mural of Rollo that's on the side of the building. Sucks that the grate's there, but it is still pretty cool. And then there you go. There's one of Sailor Jerry. So that is my episode that'll be coming up next. I also have a interview lined up for Friday night that I'll be recording. I'm actually doing a remote. So it's not going to be an in-person, but it'll be a remote. And the person that I'm interviewing, I'm not going to tell you who it is pretty deep in tattoo history. They so much so that they actually do seminars and stuff like that. So that's going to be a really fun interview for me. And then later on next week, I'm going to do another remote interview with a gentleman from the UK that's now living in the United States tattooing. So he's also a famous musician. So that's going to be cool too, man. I got a lot of cool stuff lined up for this. I think this year is going to be pretty amazing. as the channel grows, it seems like I have a little bit easier time getting people to do interviews. I'm still struggling with some of the bigger names. They either don't get back to me, they blow me off, or flat out say no. But hey, look, it's going to happen, right? I think with, being a part of the Tattoo Artist Magazine, TAM, is going to allow me to, meet a few more people, get my name out there, get a little bit more exposure, and it's going to help me get some other interviews. But that's the beauty of how I have this set up. And something that I learned pretty quick was if you can't get interviews, you got to create your own stuff. And, there's going to be plenty of history episodes coming up. And we're just going to keep chugging along, man. If I can't get an interview, then I go ahead and do history episodes, and we just keep moving. Keep moving forward, man. Just got to keep fighting. I will be out in LA December 11th through the 16th. At that point in time, one of those days, hopefully, will be hanging out with Fat Cracker. We're going to be doing some filming for his LA tattoo tours, which is while I'm thinking about it, let's give you guys a quick plug, because I always try to give you guys a plug. There is the Instagram page for the LA tattoo tours, guided tours of LA's and Southern California's historic tattoo shops, sites, museums, and history. www.latattootours.com, along with a phone number. If you're not following it, you should follow it on Instagram. Fat Cracker is doing his best to get that rolling. He is up and running. And then also, if anybody's looking for any type of stuff for your shop, Ohio Laser and Plasma Cutting does phenomenal work. I don't have my cup with me tonight. They do some very awesome laser engraved cups and different stuff. Chris Hawkins is in the chat with us tonight. But if you're looking for like cool little tchotchke stuff for your shop or your work, reach out to Chris. They will definitely steer you in the right direction. It is veteran-owned business. We support veteran-owned businesses here. And here is the contact info if you are looking to get anything done. So yeah, man, anybody else that watches our show, listens to our show, I know we have a lot of guys that tattoo or paint flash while they're listening. If you're looking for some plugs for your stuff, hit me up. Info tattoosinreview@gmail.com. I'll try to get it on one of our live streams for you. And if you're also looking for stuff for your shop, reach out to Chris. So there you go, man. Boom. I think I got all the plugs in. These are not paid advertisements. We support our community. That's what we do here. What's up, Gibby? Dude, good to see you, brother. Gibby from Conquest Tattoo hanging out with us in chat. Gibby is one of my first interviews that I did for the channel. I did a redo with him, which was even better, and he actually gave me my very first black and gray tattoo, man. He gave me a banging. I get compliments on it all the time, man. Pretty amazing Viking down the side of my calf. Matter of fact, I was just saying something to you on a post you made where I replied and said, dude, I got to swing by, man, and show you what it looks like healed. For whatever reason, dude, I am always ashy, even if I put lotion on. So doing a picture doesn't do it justice, man. But yeah, man, if anybody's, looking for shit to get plugged or whatever, hit me up, man. Email me, let me know. I'm always willing to support anyone that's part of our community that we built here, man. This is why we do these live streams, man. Because it gives us an opportunity to chat with people that watch our stuff and, ask questions or shoot the shit or bust balls. We're all about it, man. This is what it's about. So that's why we do Wednesdays and Sunday nights here. You're never late, Drag. Good to see you, though. Let's see a quick pick, Buck. You know what, dude? I do not have one to show you, but what I'll do is I'll put some lotion on it and I will see if I can put it up for you on Wednesday night. But Gibby does some amazing work. Matter of fact, if you check out Tattoos in Review on Facebook, I actually just posted one of his reels that I made for him. We posted it a while ago on the channel, but it's literally just posted it, I think, a day ago on Facebook, because I'm trying to get my Facebook page up, get some numbers up on that thing, along with my Instagram. So, yeah, you'll have to check it out. But Gibby does freaking amazing work, dude. He's one of our local guys that came out of Tattoos by RC. He worked for RC for a bit, and is one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet, man. He's got a really sweet shop too down there in Westchester, PA. So I think all he has is Facebook and Instagram, Justin. It's Conquest Tattoos on all social media. But thanks for hanging out tonight, Gibby. Good to see you, brother. So yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode tonight. Maybe if you didn't know about Lance, maybe I gave you a little bit of info and gave you some, little knowledge. I didn't give you a shit ton because it's weird, man. Me and Fat Cracker kind of went back and forth about this a couple weeks ago. I typically don't do any type of episodes on somebody that's still alive because I'm always like, man, I'd rather interview them. And I feel like if you do an episode on them, it's takes away your opportunity to maybe interview them later. And it's stupid, but that's just how my mind works. I don't know if I'll ever get out to Hawaii again, so I figured it was worth just doing it. And like I said, I mean, so many different tattoo artists that I talked to were like, oh, you got to talk to Lance. You got to see Lance. You got to. So, or should have seen Lance. You should have seen Lance. So, yeah, it was just, I figured it was cool to do. And like I said, I mean, he doesn't, he's not, like one of those super well-known guys. He's more of a tattoo artist type of person. So, Buck, I miss the old days where we had more than just social media. That's why I use YouTube for my stuff, because it's the only social media I truly like. I am a big fan of YouTube. For me, it's they make it really easy to do. Takes a lot to learn. You got to learn a lot of stuff about YouTube, but once you get rolling, it's pretty cool. I say this all the time to family. It was like, if I did more like general interest or was like a vlogging travel channel, I'd be able to make content so much quicker. I'd be pumping out content daily. So much so that I would probably be able to quit my job, right? But when you're doing stuff like this, where it's not necessarily the biggest audience, and also you have to do research and put in time and effort for each one of the episodes, unless it's an interview, right? Interviews, you're going to do your research before you go into it, and then whatever happens during the interview happens. But if you're doing like a history episode, it takes a lot of research and all that other stuff, and it's like, if I was one of those guys that could do like a general interest, or dude, I cannot stand politics at all. But let me tell you something. Those people that are doing politics channels that were like, just started this year or last year, crazy numbers, dude, huge channels. But I don't think that's worth the stress, the agita, the ulcers, just to get views and try to. That ain't for me, dude. I'm not about that. It's all good, Drag. Don't worry about it, brother. You're here all the time, man. I'm just happy to see you, dude. I know it's super late for you right now, but yeah, Justin, put out what's your channel? Put it in chat so we can all see it. I actually want to make sure that actually, you know what? I think I could do it this way too. If I do, nope. Go to channel. There you go, man. Hold on, I'll show everybody. How about that? Make it easier. There you go. Let's do this. If I do share screen, I'll plug your channel right now, Justin. There you go. There's Justin's channel. Anybody's looking for a different channel to watch, go ahead and check him out. His screen name is actually the same as his name in chat, at Justin Smet. So, look at that. I'm already subscribed, Justin. See that? Supporting others, man. There you go. But he does some cool stuff on there, man. A lot of cool stuff. So, if you're looking for a channel to check out, go ahead and check it out. Later on, Drag, good to see you, brother, and I will see you Sunday. And I agree, dude. I do not do politics at any time. Can't stand it. Don't want to be... Dude, you couldn't pay me to be... to do politics, man. I just don't... I don't see how those guys do it. Plus, you know what, man? Those guys that are doing that, they have no life. Because they're constantly scrubbing Twitter, RSS feeds, different YouTube channels, news. Dude, no thank you, man. You know what, man? I don't care how much money you're making, dude. That is not worth it to me. What would be worth it would be doing a kick-ass travel vlog channel. But from what I understand, that's really hard to break into as well. But man, that would be fucking awesome. Like I watch like Backpacker Ben and Spanian and a couple other dudes where it's like dude, you're getting paid to travel, man, to these amazing places, and you know, it's just, dude, that would be freaking so awesome. But dude, I don't do OBS. I use a program called EVMux. I started off with OBS, but you know, man, like you got to know a lot of different plugins and stuff like that. And like I like to just be able to go down here and go, boom, and hit this button, and I can bring up people's stuff that they say in chat. Or I could say, you know, like somebody throws a super chat, I could throw that up on screen. And you need all kinds of plugins and shit like that to do OBS. And I was just like, dude, I don't have time to teach myself how to do that. I mean, Jesus, if you look back at some of the first live streams that I did on this channel, they're fucking train wrecks. I mean, I think the very first one, man, we had like 30, 40 people and it took a shit right. And then like as we started, and then boom, it was like, couldn't get it back. So I lost my, you know, that initial push that YouTube gives you. And we've been fighting ever since to get it back, which is cool, man. I mean, I'd rather have the community anyway, but it just seemed like OBS was just more stuff that I needed to learn that I just didn't have time for. Because to be fair, man, I had to teach myself how to use DaVinci Resolve, which is what I used to do all my editing. I had to teach myself how to do proper camera work. You know, I had to do better titles, thumbnails, how to write like hooks for videos, so this way it kind of sucks you in, keeps people listening, all that stuff. And that was more important to learn than doing OBS, so I just kind of gave up on it. But I still have it on my computer. I just prefer the EVMux, or it's basically the Bobo version of StreamYard. It's cheaper than StreamYard, and you also get the ability to do 1080i instead of 720. So StreamYard, in order for you to get above 720, you got to buy like the corporate package or whatever. And I'm like, dude, that's too much money for me. But Did you ever make it to? Oh, I did not, Chris. So, that is still in the plans. That is the plan is for me and Eddie to take a road trip out to Ohio. When I do that, I will let you know. Eddie was just in the hospital. Not trying to put his business out on Front Street, but I hit him up and he didn't get back to me. And I got a hold of him and he said he was in the hospital. So he's out now. He's doing better or whatever. But we're going to try to get that put together hopefully before the winter. But if not, it'll be in the spring, Chris. Because you know just as well as I do, man, you go to the PA Turnpike. As soon as you go through the mountains, you could be seeing a foot of snow and all hell breaks loose. So unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to make it before the winter time comes, but if not, we'll do the spring. Because like I said, I know I'm going out to LA in December. Buck, I could learn a lot from people for doing streaming. You could always put in the chat the system you use for streaming. Is it free? Excuse me. Yes, so EVMux does have a free version. So like if I go to this initial splash page, see up here where I got the cool tattoos and review logo in the top corner. Instead of having that, you would have the Bobo version. Here, I'll hide it and I'll show you the Bobo version of the EVMux. See that? So that would be the only thing. The screen resolution and all that stuff is still the same on the free version. I think there's a couple things that you might not get on the free version, but I don't remember. It was you know, it wasn't a lot of money, to be honest with you, for the year. So for me, it was worth it. You know, that's the other thing. Like when you're running a channel, you know, like I have to pay for yearly subscriptions for like Envato Elements, stuff like that. That's where I get my music and some of my graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, so EVMux does have a free version. If you're looking for a free version, you could at least try it out, give it a whirl, see if you like it. It simplifies it, makes it a lot easier, dude. OBS has way too many other things going on, my opinion, anyway. Cool. I actually like answering these questions. So if you guys ever have any questions about streaming, doing editing, DaVinci Resolve, whatever, yeah, man, you can always hit me up, dude. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If not, I'll tell you who to go watch. Because that's the other thing, man. Like I got my list of people that I watch on YouTube. I don't know how to do something. Like if I have an audio question that I'm like stuck on, I know how to do audio. I was a professional audio engineer, but for DaVinci Resolve, the program itself, how to do audio, I go to like Daniel Battelle or Jason Yadlovsky. If I need tips on how to do transitions and shit like that, I use like Mr. Alex Tech. That's my boy. Like, you know, that dude's got amazing tutorials on YouTube. So plenty of stuff out there. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, dude. And like I told you, Mike, if you ever come east, man, you gotta let me know, dude. For real. Come out. We'll go riding and shit, dude. You're more than welcome, man. But I hope you all have a good night. Hope you all have a safe, happy week. And hopefully we catch you all on Sunday when we do our live stream at 6 o'clock Eastern time with me and Justin for Two Fat Guys in a Tattoo Shop. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't already, please show some love. Give this stream a like. And I'll catch you all next time. Peace.